Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of our Thrive in China roundtable. Let me just change slides. We are now, I believe it is roundtable number 27 for this year, where we're going to be talking about how to review the performance of your China business. Before we start our roundtables, though, we're always looking to understand a little bit more about our audience, who's in our audience, what stage of their China journey are they in. So if you are a newbie to China, a startup in China, or an experienced China hand, just drop a little message in the chat box. And for those of you that are watching this on replay, then again, please be proactive and let us know who you are. In a couple of weeks, we are going to have Joe, who's going to reach out to all of you to just start conversing a little bit about where you are in your China journey and provide you with resources that may be of assistance as well. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christina Kohler-Colucci. I'm the head of business advisory at Woodburn Accountants and Advisors. I'm an expert on inbound investment to China. That means for the last 20 years, I have solely focused on helping foreign investors with their market entry, implementation, and growth in the Chinese market. We are headquartered in Hong Kong. We do the same type of activities in Hong Kong, but it's my brother who is the inbound investment expert for Hong Kong specifically. I've helped over 750 companies across a variety of industries and sectors, all the way from F&B to light switches to industrial automation equipment, start their China journeys and expand in the Chinese market. Now, the services that we do are everything from trademark registrations all the way through to employment of record, to incorporation, accounting, tax, as well as then advisory. If you have not yet received a free copy of our ebook, The 10 Biggest Mistakes Companies Make in China, please email me. We're offering this to all the community in Thrive in China. So if you haven't received it yet, just email us. So we are on roundtable 27. There are 9 more roundtables before we close off the calendar year of 2023. And today's session is on how to review your China business performance. Now, I've brought in this session specifically for this period of time because this is what I go through within my organization from now, after the October holiday, until pretty much the Christmas vacation, to review the performance of 2022 and 2023 and understand our strategy for 2024. And there are a variety of things that I look at within our organization that I want to touch on for you today. So why is it actually vital for you to do a review on the progress of your business? I think, just as a business owner myself, we get caught up in the day-to-day, almost fighting fires, versus taking a stand back and saying, how is actually the business doing? We need to stand back on several occasions throughout the fiscal year and say, are we performing? Are we hitting our goals and objectives? Have we updated our business plan and reforecasted our budget based on the updates that have occurred? Are we moving in the right direction? Is the board of directors happy with the move that we're going in the right direction? Do we need to change things in terms of how we do our services, in my case, our services? Or do we need to look at innovation, service innovation? Do we need to be flexible with what we're offering? How is our pricing point? And we just started this project ourselves, and the realization that we had within the management team was we don't have enough information to make change. So we're going to start doing a benchmarking exercise based on what our competitors are doing, how our competitors are evolving, and also looking at their price points and how do we relate to them, because so much has happened in 2023. Borders have opened up. There has been change, and in some industries it's been faster than expected, and other industries, I was just talking with somebody yesterday who said they're disappointed by this year, that it hasn't grown in the way they had anticipated it to grow. So there's a lot of economic scenarios and circumstances that can also cause you to stand back and say, what are we doing in China? Are we in the right place to move forward? Do we need to pivot in a certain direction? So especially if you have got uncertainty about certain aspects of your business, or you're just going through your annual review, this is what we want to try and get out of it, is what mistakes did we do this year? How can we improve ourselves, our team, different aspects of our operational business, and what can we do now for 2024 in terms of strategy development? Okay. Now, some of you might have started this way earlier. I have clients who had to finalize their 2024 budget actually prior to the national holidays. This is my timeline. You obviously should be creating your own timeline. All right. Now, I bring in a management team because I can't do this alone. And when I sit with my management team, we have a meeting talking about what direction we should be going in. And there are questions that we raise ourselves. And I wanted to highlight these questions with you today. So the first is, what's my direction? All right. Where do I see myself going? And again, there's no right or wrong to any of this. This is just what we do and what I'm kind of highlighting what we do and what quite a few of our clients are doing as well. So I do a 5-year plan. Where do I see this company in 5 years? What would I like to achieve? What are our limitations? And I do a 5-year projection. As we're sitting down in the management, one of the first questions is, are we still on the right direction? Are we going in the right way? Are we achieving the goals and targets that are going to hit the goals we want to achieve in 5 years' time? And remember, the 5 years' time is not looking at it at 2022 and then saying, okay, what's happening in 2027? It's evolving, right? Those 5 years are a rolling effect where now we're looking at 2028. Where do we want to be at the end of 2028? Then it's also going to be, where do we see ourselves at the end of 2029? And there's so many things that can happen in that period of time, so many unforeseen scenarios, but you got to plan for these. And COVID taught me, we need to be action ready in case something falls at our fingertips. And you have to obviously look at your industry, look at your sector, looking at corporate services against other people in FMCG or other areas, it will look very different. Okay. So where are we now? Where are we hitting our goals for 2028? Do we see ourselves moving forward for 2029? What are our markets? I personally am very Shanghai centric. It does not mean that I don't cater to other jurisdictions within China. On a lot of my presentations, I also don't really highlight Hong Kong that much. And I don't do that because strategically, we have seen over the last 4 years that China has dominated and that foreign investors want to go into China versus having a holding in Hong Kong. We're now seeing in 2023 a change there. We're seeing a shift there. So do expect that a lot of our content will also change next year to Hong Kong and China related education. And so we're taking that influence that's coming in throughout the year where we're saying, we dominated China for a good 3-4 years, left Hong Kong on the sidelines. Now we see Hong Kong coming back in. We're going to focus on that. Within China, are there new markets that you want to look into? Now, for ease of operation, I always centralize everything out of Shanghai. Is that a smart move? No, it's just an ease and efficiency move. Doesn't mean it's the right one. And one of the things we're going to be looking at is whether we need to expand into other cities within China and have people on the ground there to help facilitate our clients, but also help facilitate new growth and acquire new clients. So you've got to understand what your markets are, what you're competing in, what changes you might have to make, okay? And remember, the goal is that you want to gain a market advantage over your competitors. So again, doing that benchmarking, the last benchmarking we did was 2 years ago, quite a while ago. And we realized that since the borders have opened up, everybody has kind of shifted. And it's important for me to understand how they have shifted and what direction have they shifted. Another aspect that we touch on in these management meetings is our resources. What needs to change? What needs to be improved? And we allocate budget for that because we're constantly looking to improve our back end. improve our operational backend? Do we have the right skill set? Do we need to delegate more to individuals and therefore hire more, higher end individuals, educated individuals who have the right skill sets that we need to be able to delegate? Do we have assets? Do we need to shuffle those assets? Do we need to purchase things? Do we have the money to purchase these things? Do we have the money to update our IT infrastructure, our technical components? Do we need new tools? Do we need to reevaluate those tools? And one thing, I was going to highlight it a little bit later on in the presentation, but I have these overall management meetings. But actually prior to that, I have very relaxed one-to-one meetings with each of my departments, my marketing department, which is consolidated with BD, with my service delivery department, and then my admin department. And I ask them, are there things you need to improve the business? Do we need to change tools? Do we need to update our IT infrastructure? And so I get a little bit of background from the heads of these departments to understand what their needs are. In the management meeting, we consolidate all of this information and we say, for economies of scale, can we, buy one tool that can encompass the needs of all departments, okay? So it's really important to get yourself updated on that. And understand what your individual departments need to succeed and hit their individual targets, and then coming together with the management to say, this is the info I've gotten back. How can we bring this now together as a unit, as a company unit? It's also really important to understand the business environment that we are competing in. A lot has changed in 2023 in terms of China, the environment we're in, compared to the previous 3 years of 2020, 21, and 22. So we really need to understand in 2024, what type of external factors are going to come in that will affect us. Will the Ukraine-Russian war affect us? Will the Israeli-Palestine war affect us? Will the trade tensions with the US affect us? Will trade tensions with the UK affect us? It's really important to understand the global business environment as well as the local business environment in China. And then obviously the most important aspect is, how am I going to measure success? If I make changes from one year to the next, how can I measure that this is an improvement? I don't always trust the verbal discussions I get from my team, right? I need a metric that gives me data versus just simply having a conversation. Do you like this tool? No, I need a metric data that shows me that by investing in that, we've done the right decision. Otherwise, again, I'm going to have to pivot mid-year and do a review on the business to understand whether we have to go back to where we were because it brought nothing to us, or what else we have to do. All right. So it's really analyzing all the tools you need, the resources you need. Are you going in the right direction? Now, like I mentioned, I don't do this on my own. I don't go through all these questions on my own and analyze my business on my own. I've got people in my Hong Kong office who've got a completely different oversight over China that I talk to. I talk to our directors, I talk to our senior management teams individually and then as a group. And it helps. First of all, these reviews are a lot of fun because you're talking about strategy and how you can pivot and change the company. And when you involve your team in these discussions, they really do feel like they're a part of this company community, and that their say can influence the direction in which the company is going into. So a lot of time these meetings are fun, they last long. You order pizza, it can actually be really great. And obviously with borders being opened, it is much easier to be able to do that face-to-face now. You get such different interactions than doing it over Zoom. So if you have the ability, do use this opportunity in these periods of time, especially with the upcoming trade shows appearing, CIIE in November. Take that opportunity to sit with your team face-to-face. Now, what we're going to go through today is activities that you can do to really go through the nitty-gritty of how to review your China business performance. okay? But some questions that I wanted to outline on this slide are, how effectively are you matching your goods and services to your customers' needs? Have you done a customer analysis? I don't do customer analyses very often. I don't go to my customers and say, hey, could you fill out a questionnaire? Or, hey, could we have a call where we can discuss what you think about us? Hey, are we servicing your needs, or do you need something else? So it's really important to have these conversations with your customers, or at least have your sales team have these conversations with your customers to understand what they want and what they need, and ultimately what the market then needs. If you're getting feedback in regards to your products or services, it's really important to understand from your customer's perspective, what are the problems? Is it pricing? Is it marketing? Is it communication? Is it the design? Is it the packaging? You know, when you go into the nitty-gritty of the products, does it actually work? Has it been adapted to the Chinese market? Okay. Now, there may be some fundamental improvements that have to happen that will not happen overnight. So in your strategy and business review plan, understand that the fundamental improvements will take maybe 1 year to fix. So focus first as a priority on the quick wins. What can you fix immediately? If one of the issues is customer service and the communication is terrible, you have to look internally within your own organization and say, are these people really doing a good job or not? I just had a client recently who evaluated 20 of their sales team and realized that 4 were just not performing and had not been performing within the last 6 months. She asked my advice. What do I do? Do I give them a chance? And I said, if you really want to be strategic, fire the worst one, terminate the worst one. That's a quick win. It then should spur the other 3 to work harder and realize you're not kidding around. And this is what she did. The quick win was she terminated the worst salesperson, wasn't achieving anything. In the end, the termination was easy peasy because the guy really was not surprised that he was being terminated. And the other 3 got scared. And suddenly within 30 days, there was a complete review on attitude, performance, communication with the other team members, etc. So it's a quick win. So I felt that she did these reviews too late in time. You really need to review your team more often. I made that huge mistake as I started off in China. You really need to let go of people on a much faster pace and not be scared of doing it. What's the point of having a bad egg within your company? The next is doing a review on your products and services. What is working and what is not working? Okay, so we also do this. And this affects our marketing team. Our marketing team pushes the services that are extremely successful within our organization. We brand that more than we do the services that are kind of ad hoc, once in a while, and where we see there's no real need. I mean, the clients, they're happy to know we do it, but it's not a necessity for them. It's not been a decision point for them to say, we work with Woodburn because you got that service. All right. So analyze your product line. What is successful? What works? What is a need? What is not a need? And you've got to also analyze what can be removed. I mean, life in China is complex as it is. Do you really need 20 service line items, or is it better to be succinct and centralize it under 10 service items, that you only have 10 service items that you're focusing on? Again, yesterday with that same client, we were talking about, you know, when we started off in China, we never said no to anything. As you start off, you probably do that. You just don't say no, and you just say, yeah, I can do that service, and we'll add it in. And we'll now, as we are in the growing and scaling stage, we've placed boundaries. We can't do everything. We can't be experts in everything. We have to know what our limitations are. We have to know also where we're good at producing certain products and not so good producing others, and kind of filtering through that and changing that. Now, if you're not good at something, the evaluation then is, do we improve on it? Is that something we should invest in for 2024, that we improve on that product so that we can make it a successful product? or not? Do you have that capital and that resource readily available? Do you have that time availability as well to do it? The next is, are you reviewing costs frequently? I do. I mean, it's the profession that I'm in. I'm looking at my costs constantly. Can we lower our costs? Can we negotiate our costs better? The same when you are looking at products. Can you find lower cost materials? Can you work with cheaper logistics providers? Understanding what your costs are and understanding where you can negotiate. I look at this line item by line item, and we review this. And when we know that our contracts are coming to the end of term, we sit down with those suppliers and we renegotiate. We have found this year that costs are rising. We were able to negotiate much, much better in 2020, 21, and 22 than we are this year. So we have to account for these increases within our budgets for 2024. And the question is, have you all done that as well? Okay, are you aware of these increases that are occurring within the market? Now, answering these questions will give you the basis on which to improve performance, profitability, but most importantly, where you need to place focus. Like I said, we try to look at the quick wins. What can we do immediately? When we have these meetings it started this month, October, all the way to the end of October, early November, whatever we see can be a fixed win. We initiate and are proactive in doing it right there and then. We don't wait till January to do it. We do it right there and then. And if it can be fixed right there and then, it means that we can pivot even further and focus on the longer term improvements that have to be made. Okay. I have limited time. I have limited resources. I'm building and growing a business. These quick wins are vital. And when you're reviewing your business month to month, quarter to quarter, fix things straight away that can be fixed straight away. Don't wait around. The next point is looking and assessing your business efficiency. So I've listed here a couple of things that I feel are important, and especially things you need to think about for 2024. Now, my expectation for 2024, I haven't really given a review of where I see China going in 2024. Again, I'm focusing on my industry and my sector, but I'm also relating it to a lot of my clients. 2023, I had predicted would be a slow growth. The reason why I say that is because borders were opening up. I felt that people needed to reacquaint themselves with China again, travel back, get their feet on the ground, smell the country, see the people again, refamiliarize themselves with face-to-face contact. I knew deals would be brokered, but I didn't expect, and I still don't expect, things to zoom back up. Talking to quite a few people, that was their expectation. That was not my expectation. However, in 2024, I do expect things to zoom up. And if it doesn't, it will be a big disappointment. And what could get in the way is government regulation, relationships internationally, etc. So, but that's what I'm forecasting on. That's my belief in a very short and concise way. So what do we need to be aware of for 2024 if we're going to get this boom? One is property and premises. Okay, reviewing your lease agreements. If you're going to grow and we expect this boom, do you have the resources to fit people within your office? Do you need to account for more space? Are you going to have more inventory on the ground and therefore you need more warehouse space, or are you going to outsource as a solution? What are the advantages and disadvantages of your current location? I'm in negotiation with the premises we are in right now because there are some services that I'm not happy about, and I'm warning them. If you don't improve, I will leave, right? Do we have room to grow? If we're going to add headcount. Now, I just want to highlight, there is no official law in China about remote working. Very gray. We have instilled a remote working policy. So my plan is not to grow office space. My plan is still to be very flexible with my employees in terms of remote working, and have a certain amount in the office and have a certain amount outside of the office, on site with clients or working from home. Especially with those employees that are what I call caring employees, meaning they've got childcare, parent care that they need to concern themselves with. I'm giving them that room and that flexibility. So I'm not increasing room space. I might add 1 or 2 desks, but we're going to keep the same status quo. It's just a question of whether I want to move offices because I'm not happy with the management of our current one. Now, if we move, what are the costs? Are we going to move into a business center, co-working space? What is your strategy around that? And there, I just say, compare. Make sure you've got a pricing comparison of what it would cost to move, renovate, put in more desks, etc. And then obviously think about location and how that might impact you from a tax perspective, changing tax districts, changing your tax officer, changing your tax bureau. A lot of people forget to make that consideration as well. So do think about all of these things. The next is looking at basically your facility and your equipment. If you are a manufacturing facility, right, how modern is your equipment? Do you need to update? Now, when I say facilities, I also want to talk, I'm not a manufacturing company, but like I highlighted earlier, I do a review on my IT equipment. Things like the copier. These things are expensive and can add up. So do you need to renew all of this? How are you organizing those contracts with providers? We actually lease our copy machine. We have found it is cheaper than buying our own. We also then have the repair service, and it's just the efficiency is there. But do you need to upgrade? Do you need to scale up? Do you need to change software systems or equipment? How are you going to fund these improvements? This is a longer term improvement. I don't see any quick win in this. But it's important to analyze that, because ultimately, when you're growing and scaling, you need the foundation of your business to be up 100%. If you find that in mid-year of 2024, your equipment is failing you, how do you plan on growing and scaling? It's going to set you back. You have to place the order of the new equipment or find spare parts. It might cost you time and revenue. Okay. So make sure you're thinking about that. And again, compared to your competitors, what are they doing? What systems are they using that are beneficial to their organization? IT, touched on this already. This is something that's really critical for me. One of the new apps that we're implementing within our organization is an expense app for China. Something we didn't develop it or anything like that. We're buying it from an existing software provider, but we are contemplating buying an expense reporting app, which we believe will help us from an efficiency perspective, speed up the approval of the disbursements of our employees. It also will give us practice to roll that out to our clients if it truly, truly is efficient. We are calling this a testing phase. We do not know from a practical standpoint whether it'll be efficient or not. Actually, that is the conclusion of our conversation. So we can't answer that until we start trying it out. So we are going to start trying it out. And if it does not pan out, it's not something we're going to be promoting to our clients, and we'll give reasons for that. One of the reasons that I'm concerned about is verifying fapiaos. I still have to do it. So I don't, there are certain things that I'm con about in terms of the software system, but it's something that every department is pushing me to do. I'm open to it, and I'm open to testing it. So we're also comparing that and trying to implement that within our system for 2024. Are there other IT systems that can help you? Are there other tools that can help you? Or alternatively, are you getting pressure from HQ to implement tools and software that are being implemented in the HQ that they want for China? We're going through that right now with a client where they are implementing SAP in China. It is chaotic. Why? Because the company does not have an SAP resource on the ground in China. We are communicating with their SAP resource in the UK, who has got no clue about how to answer the questions that we have in the testing phase of the software system. So all of these things can bring delays. there are ways to solve it. It means you do have to spend a little bit of money within your budget to get that local resource so that your team locally is not frustrated. And it also speeds up the implementation of these software systems or this technology that we're talking about, okay? One thing that I want to highlight on this slide, just because it popped up in a conversation last week with a client, WeChat. I am fully aware that WeChat is a vital tool for business in China. But I just want to remind people that WeChat is an individual person's resource. My WeChat account is mine. It's not Woodburn's. My team, their WeChat accounts are theirs. I have no right to touch that information unless they're willing to give it to me. So make sure that with whatever system or tool you're using, you have standard operating guidelines of what you allow to be passed onto these tools. The reason I say all of this is because this client last week was saying, yeah, we've got a WeChat group with our logistics providers who are in charge of the customs clearance, and they send us the customs declarations on WeChat. Like, what are you guys doing? This is confidential data that individuals are sending to other individuals. Why are you not centralizing it per email? I know if that's a quick win, but from a data protection policy, it should not be okay, right? And companies can do whatever they like. I'm just giving you my warning. Be aware of that. If those individuals leave their current employers, that data they still have on their WeChat accounts, especially if they've archived them. All right, so please be aware of that. So in conjunction with IT and all of that, make sure you've got standard operating guidelines in place. Another thing we look at, people and skills. So like I said earlier, do we have the right people to achieve the objectives? Now, one thing that's important is before you talk about people that are under your management, evaluate your management team, okay? And this is something I do on my own. I wish I didn't have to do it on my own, but yes, I do it on my own. I evaluate my core group of individuals that I strategize with. Is there a weak link in the chain? Do you feel that somebody is not proactive or engaging enough to give ideas or make changes? Have they built a wall where they're unwilling to make changes within your organization? So before you talk about everybody else, think about your management team. Management might not be a quick fix. Have to be careful there. And this is where I go to my labor lawyer and get advice. If I feel there is a bad egg, I don't want to keep them, no point. I do need to recruit for somebody new. I have to do that recruitment on my own because I don't want to scare all the other management team members, or I might just bring one person in my confidence. But ultimately, you want to know how to be able to terminate them and find somebody new to replace them or to promote from underneath and move up. Once you've done management, then you bring the management together and you talk about the rest of the team members, okay? Is there training that is required for your team members? For example, do they need English training? Do they need to learn business writing skills in English? Checking also your salary guidelines and compensation. Are you paying well compared to your competitors? Do you feel that you've got high turnover of staff? Are your staff motivated and satisfied? Do they feel that they can grow within your organization and move up the ladder into higher roles and positions? Are these individuals flexible enough that they are willing to do things outside of their job responsibility to help you grow and accelerate the growth of your business? Are they achieving the basic foundation job responsibilities to the best of their ability and to what you are expecting of them? If not, you got to terminate, get fresh blood in. Now, the people and skills is something that I do more often than just once a year. We do this pretty much on a quarterly basis. Just because I've been burned in this department, don't want to be burned again. So I do this for sure more often. Okay. You want to also make sure your staff are happy, motivated, like to work for you, right? So I started on the management on the last side, but professional skills comes down into the right management team, right? I would also say looking at external parties. I work with external parties that help me to grow my business. So am I feeling that these third parties are helping us? Now, by this, I mean things like your branding agency. Is your branding agency supporting you in the right way? Are you happy with them? Are you not happy with them? If you're looking at your logistics providers, are you happy with them? Do you feel they're lacking in some way? All of these professional skills, all the way from lawyers to headhunters to accountants to logistics providers, warehousing providers, TPs, the list goes on, right, guys? Do you have to find new people within your ecosystem to support you? One of the things that was lacking for me was having an external IT provider. I realized that whenever you're using external parties, they're not available at your beck and call. That's always one of the problems of having outsourced providers. But you know, if I have a problem and you can only come 1 week later, it means that you don't have enough staff and you can't support me. In China, if I have a problem, you come the next day or at least 48 hours later, right? So it's really evaluating these skill sets and understanding in your ecosystem, not just your employees, but all third parties. Do you have to change stuff? And again, this is not a quick win. This is something that you have to look at your contracts. Do you have the ability? Are there exit clauses that give you the ability to exit these relationships? Perhaps you need to research new ones to take over the old ones before you terminate them. There's quite a bit of homework that has to happen. And is that a project then for 2024? Right? Reviewing your financial position is probably the biggest thing that you need to do, and is probably also the one that will give you the red flags to evaluate changes that have to occur within your organization, right? So cash flow. Are you aware of what your bank balance is? Do you know what your bank balance is in your USD account, in your RMB account? If you don't have that transparency of how much cash you've got on the ground, for me, that's a problem. All right. I know every Friday I get an update. I know what's in my bank account. And I get updates when money is coming in as well during that week. Then the next Friday, I get a further update. What's the current status as of that Friday? Understanding how much money you have on the ground is vital, because it gives you have to make certain decisions that I'm very stringent on now because of the lockdowns that occurred last year. I need to have a certain amount constantly in my bank account. And because I need a certain amount in my bank account, I am extremely strict now with clients that don't pay me on time. I am not their bank rolling creditor, whatever. I'm providing a service. I invoice after that service. I expect payment from that service. I understand everybody has different payment terms and will pay within 14 days or within 1 month. But if I've got now 13 invoices that are out, I'm making a number up, 13 invoices that are outstanding, that's unacceptable. And it's up to me now to decide, do I terminate and say, okay, I gotta write that off? Or am I gonna take legal action, which will cost me lawyers, but potentially I'll get that money back? What action I'm gonna take? So all of this is looking at your cash flow, looking at your accounts receivables, looking at your accounts payables, and understanding what your costs are. Are those costs increasing, right? Another thing you need to look at is your registered capital, your investment capital, your working capital that you're using to grow and scale your business. Have you used it all up? Is there room to use foreign debt loan? Do you need to increase your registered capital in order to be able to facilitate the growth that you are expecting for next year? Are there other avenues where you don't have to increase your registered capital, but there are other ways of getting money in to help facilitate that growth? Okay. Capital is vital again for the growth of your business. And if we are predicting that there's going to be a boom in 2024, we have to be prepared for this. And you might have bureaucratic operational guidelines telling you that you need approval from the board of directors. You need to then state why you need an increase. You're probably going to have to show numbers to them to explain why you need that increase. It's a lot of work involved. Again, not a quick fix, but something you need to prep for and go to your board and say, I need more money, right? Cost base we touched in already, right? Borrowing Like I said, are you going to get a foreign debt loan, or are you going to go to local banks? And then growth. I foresee growth next year in my industry. So am I prepared for that? And you have to be ready for it, right? So it's prepping yourself and looking at the financial status. And then if there are any suspicions is not the right word I'm looking for. If there are any items in your P&L that are causing you to say, we've got to reevaluate this. So one thing that I will say is I'm planning to travel more next year. I'm planning to do more trips back to Shanghai. I'm planning to also travel more for marketing initiatives. For the last 3 years, I've had no travel expenditure whatsoever in my budget. This is something now that we really have to look at to understand. When I brought it up to our management team, my management team in Shanghai said, well, Christina, we don't really need you. Everything is running smoothly. If you come, it's a nice to have, but if it's going to affect the budget, we would rather you did not put that in the budget. Fair enough. You know, they're smart enough to realize, you know, if it gives me a bigger bonus by you not coming because there's more money available, that's what they're going to go for. And if things are running smoothly, I get it. They don't need me on the ground because everything that is happening on the ground is running smoothly. So evaluating this travel expenditure, a lot of people are not thinking about this, specifically this increase in travel, particularly for next year. Most companies that I've been working with have only done one trip this year to China. I foresee this really changing next year. And maybe some of you have definitely done more this year, but I don't know too many that have done more than one. So again, reevaluating certain line items is going to be critical. Competitor analysis. I think this is something that's vital coming up into 2024. And preempting, how can you beat out your competition if there's going to be a boom? They're all of us are prepping for it. So conduct a new competitor analysis. Who is new on the market? Who's come in the last 3-4 years? Who are they? What do they offer? How do they price their products and or services? Who are their customers, right? What are their competitive advantages and disadvantages compared to you? What are their reactions to you potentially changing your marketing strategy, your branding strategy, your pricing, your product portfolio, your service portfolio, etc. I highly recommend doing this analysis. If you've already done it within 2023, then you're already prepped. But I do truly recommend doing this coming into 2024. Then it's about conducting a customer and market analysis. How has China changed? Again, I'm doing this with the competitor benchmarking. For us, regulations have changed. Certain things have become easier, faster even, especially in certain cities. It's important to know what these changes are and reflect on that properly. It's also important to understand in my industry and market is who is coming in. We're seeing more entrepreneurs. We're seeing a lot more smaller organizations, not the big ones who could have afforded to do it during COVID. We're seeing the smaller ones coming in. We are developing specific packages for those new customers that are smaller to cater to their specific needs, where they need to have a concrete budget, fixed fees. I hate working with fixed fees, but I am making exceptions for this new target market that we see coming in 2024. So what opportunities are coming in China in 2024? Have you outlined them? Can you predict what's coming in, right? And again, a lot of that will come with the competitor benchmarking as well. Asking your customers for feedback is vital. It gives you a standing point, and we are going to be doing customer reviews between now and before the Christmas holidays, just to preempt everybody for the 2024 strategy, the year-end compliance requirements, but also, are you happy with Woodburn? What can we do better? What can we change? And quite frankly, we are also going to take this opportunity to tell certain clients where we are not happy with them and why. What improvements do they need to make their admin finance team happy? We are just an outsourced provider. I get it. But at some point, we hope everybody builds their own in-house admin team. And we have to give them feedback where improvement has to be made as well. I always believe that's a two-way street. Happy to listen to where I need to improve, but let me tell you also where you need to improve. So have these conversations. Now, you can do this through surveys, questionnaires. Our tactic has always been doing one-to-one conversations. But I think what I would like to do is prepare questionnaires, because we work with several people within our clients. So we have one client, we might work with 5 different people. And I want feedback from all those 5, not just the head. Now, when you are working with your clients, think about who you are collaborating with them. Is it one person? Is it multiple people? And who should you be getting feedback from? I actually want feedback from everybody. Something different that we're going to be doing this year. And again, not difficult to do. Developing a questionnaire in Chinese for those staff members that we communicate with on a daily basis, I think is vital. They are the ones who are in the thick of it all, who I want to hear feedback from. Will it cause my team to feel a bit antsy about this? Yeah, I hope so. I want them to feel antsy, because obviously if the feedback is, I hate X, Y, and Z staff, I need to figure out why. Why do you hate my staff? What are the reasons behind it? Have they been negligent? Have they not been communicating? Then we have to look internally about fixing certain procedures and operating guidelines. Now, use your review to redefine your business goals, okay? So to remain successful and to also move at the right speed for growth and scaling, 3 questions you have to ask yourself is, where is my business now? Where is it going? How is it going to get there? And then you have to look at what needs to be fixed, right? You need to develop that roadmap, which a lot of people don't do. They don't create a timeline. So if by the end of 2024, you want to be somewhere, what is your roadmap? What actions are you going to take month by month, week by week, day by day to accomplish that goal? Like I said, you can have quick wins, which are quick fixes that can be done. But the longer term improvements, you got to set deadlines on that, right? And that's where people lack out in that organizational skill, is setting out that roadmap and setting deadlines for their management and for their team to fulfill. And making sure that meetings are in the diary to hold people accountable to those deadlines. So if we are evaluating employees and staff, what is the deadline to get rid of people or to train them so that they improve? I'm looking at the negative of letting people go, but you can also train them. You can also implement training programs. When are they going to take these training programs? What's the cost of those training programs? What's the metric that we can look at after those training programs to see that the relationship is getting better and better, right? So think about these things. So like I said here, remember to prepare that roadmap, put those new ideas into place, and set those timetables and set those deadlines. 2023 has become exceptionally dynamic in China because of the movement and flow of people and really everything opening up. In my business and sector, companies, we have grown to an extent that we were not expecting. I was having a very conservative point of view. But when I analyze the new clients I've attained in 2023, it's those clients that hit the stoplight during COVID and said, we will only push forward once the borders open up and we can physically travel there. And the majority of them have done that. So they've taken that opportunity to greenlight China and move forward. And to our delight, it's more than we expected. So we have found ourselves that it's been a very dynamic year. Definitely not the downturn we experienced from the last 3 years, and definitely not the negativity that we've had for the last 3 years. So for us, it's been dynamic. It has meant that we've had to do reviews more often than we anticipated. We do reviews now on a quarterly basis. We revamp our updates, deadlines, that we have a roadmap, knowing when certain things have to be done. I honestly can't do everything myself, so I delegate a lot to my management team that they have to achieve. It is, however, my job to be on top of them and make sure that it gets done. They can't get lazy on these things. Otherwise, you don't grow and scale at the momentum that you want to grow and scale. So you've got to keep this accountability. I feel like this is a bit more of a coaching session. And I apologize for that. But alternatively, also get expert input, right? If you are feeling reluctance from your team members on the ground to implement and instill things, then get external advice, get external consultants that can help you do that. Get a non-executive director who can be impartial to the development of your business. Get a management consultant or an interim manager to come into your organization to help implement certain things to improve the business. I call the expert input a little bit like firefighting. It's getting people in if you are feeling the resistance and you don't know how to get over that resistance except from firing everyone. Again, firing is not the ultimate solution. There are other ways. In this case, think about having somebody come in and investigate. One thing that we do from a financial standpoint is we can come in and do internal health checks, internal audits to verify that the business is going in the right way, that the admin team are organized enough and have standard operating guidelines to make sure that everything is adapted and implemented. We also help to create these standard operating guidelines. But of course, we can help create them. We just can't be the ones to execute them. You have to get your team to execute on that. So to finish off today, we're looking at models for strategic analysis. Now, the most popular one is the SWOT analysis. It's looking at your strengths, looking at what your weaknesses are in all aspects of your businesses, looking at the opportunities and looking at the threats, right? So one of the things that I praise our team for is that we pivot very quickly. We have become very dynamic in this regard. We were quite lethargic over the COVID period, but now we've seen a turn. It's brought positivity to all of us, and we are pivoting much faster. I think this is one of our strengths. One of our weaknesses potentially is language capabilities amongst our lower end employees, which we need to improve on. It's also potentially IT infrastructure. The next is looking at our opportunities. Like I mentioned earlier, we are seeing a growth of investment coming from smaller organizations where we now need to create appropriate fixed packages to cater to them specifically. Threats is that our competitors are realizing this and they want to have a piece of the pie. And by competitors, I want to differentiate. It's our lower end competitors who are seeing this, not our higher end ones. So it's the local service providers in China who are seeing this, where they're starting to hire fluent English speakers to cater to this market, and they're offering it at cheaper prices. So we're aware of these things. It's a matter of then taking action off of it, right? So you have the whole idea of the SWOT analysis. Again, breaking down your strategic review, 5 areas: market performance, looking at your products and services, looking at operations, back end, looking at your finance and administration, and your overall organization and people. So if you want to summarize the 5 areas: market performance, what's your revenue? What's your profit margin? Looking at your products and services, looking at operational backend, looking at your finance and admin side of things, and then organization and people. So 5 chapters, if you will, that you should really be looking at. So next steps, try to get this done. Look at these 5 chapters, look at these 5 steps and understand where you want to start off. Have little action points for each of these 5 steps, right? In terms of then moving forward. Sit down with your management team to analyze these 5 things. Do you know what? It's better to have a management meeting where everybody says, hey, boss, we're good. Nothing needs to be changed. I would be concerned by that. But if that happens, then at least you've had that discussion with your team and you're realizing, actually, we are good. Based on the speed and how we want to grow and scale, we're fine. Maybe investments should come in 2025 and not in 2024. Maybe we keep the status quo for 2024, limit our costs, don't make huge vital improvements to the foundation. We wait one more year, and then we look at 2025. You've got to analyze all of this. There's so many scenarios that can be created. But if you don't start having those discussions and getting other people to look into your business, you will struggle. I know I do. So that's the end of today's presentation. Again, as usual, I always want to hear what people's biggest takeaways were from today. So if you are on here live, love to understand what your feedback is. For those of you that are watching this on replay, let me know. This always helps me to make these presentations. I've changed them year on year, so it just helps. I didn't update the slide, I apologize, but if you guys do need help in doing a performance review of your company, or you want tidbits and action points of how to do it, I'm more than happy to help you. We can set up a 30-minute call to see how we can do that. And in the email with the link to this recording, I'll provide you with a link to my diary. We always want to take these conversations back into our WeChat group. So we've got a WeChat group called the Thrive in China Community. We've got now about 270 odd people in the community, business professionals that, when something pops up, again, I don't do everything. So when something does pop up and you need a patent lawyer or whatever, or a media agency, those people are all in there, even real estate agents and whatnot. Sign up to me. My ID is KNCOLUCCIA. Happy to then add you into the group so that you can start participating. Next week's roundtable is about how to calculate the breakdown of a salary package in China. We're going to look at both foreigners and locals. Sometimes we just have to refresh our minds on the foundation of how things work. So I'm going back to the nitty-gritty of how things work in terms of salary packages. Give you a little bit of an update on social insurances, housing funds, non-mandatory medical insurances and housing fund allocations as well. Looking at external insurances that you might want to think about, all in relation to that concept of salary package. So if you've joined live, this is the link, 1 p.m. Central European time next week, 7 p.m. Shanghai time. Come and join. Happy to have you on here. In the meantime, thank you very, very much for joining. Truly appreciate it. Kim, thank you for joining. Happy to see you again on the webinars, and look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Take care and goodbye.